Hello friends, welcome to this week's landscape photography vlog, and this time we're on the beautiful island of Madeira. In this video we explore some of the most incredible sea cliffs I've ever seen, capture a wide variety of different conditions, and I almost fall for a trap that would have cost me one of my favorite images of the trip. I really hope you enjoy the video. Our journey starts with a dark hike before sunrise, and once we got to the top of the hill we were treated with this spectacular scene. Good morning from the island of Madeira. Just got in here last night with my friend Marco and Jessica. This is our first shooting outing, which, as you can see, it's a pretty amazing spot. Really dramatic. Unfortunately, though, the light, is maybe a little too dramatic for this spot. We wanted a bit of nice direct sunlight coming out at sunrise, and unfortunately that didn't happen. We really wanted to get the sun rising right behind this scene to give a bit of backlighting. I still decided to take a photo to see what the composition looked like. My widest lens was at 16mm, and that wasn't enough to get this entire perspective. So I decided to do a panorama here with 6 images. I did 2 rows of horizontals, 3 in each row, and here's how it turned out. So after stitching this panorama and doing a bit of processing, I actually don't mind the way it turned out, but at the time I really wanted something a bit different here, and some different cloud textures to help accentuate the leading line of the foreground. After taking this one, I decided to pull out my 100 to 400 lens to see if I could pick out a scene in the distance, and here's what I found. Now this certainly isn't as dramatic as the previous shot with those sea cliffs, but I really love the zigzagging pattern in the water here and those subtle blue tones. And even though this wasn't the type of photograph I intended on taking while we did the hike, I'm really happy with the way it came out. And it really goes to show that under any conditions, whether it's overcast or blue sky, there's always something to photograph. After sunrise, we decided to wander around for a bit and explore more of the island. And I came across some of the most interesting patterns that I've ever seen. And so I pulled out my telephoto lens once again, and here's what I captured. It was crazy to see these patterns on the water created by the shadows of the clouds, and I felt like that cruise ship out in the distance was a really nice touch here. It's funny how some of my favorite images end up being like this, completely unplanned, spontaneous, just those little moments where something interesting catches your eye and you happen to have the camera with you. Besides the digital gear, I also brought my film equipment with me on this trip. I was shooting with my Nikon FE camera and rolls of Portra 160, and so I also decided to snap a film version of this scene. So Marco and I were still very determined to get a nice image of those dramatic cliffs at the beginning of the video. So we wandered back out for sunrise, and this time we were met with almost a completely clear sky. There were a few tiny little clouds on the horizon that looked like they might come in, but unfortunately they kind of just stayed out to sea. I decided to use the same technique as the previous day, doing a panorama, and with the sun in the sky I also had to exposure blend, which meant changing my shutter speed to take a few darker images for the sun and then brighter for the shadow detail in the rock. After taking these, we packed up, and overall I just wasn't feeling that great about the images I was taking. But as we were hiking out, little did we know things would change very quickly. Clouds just started rolling in from the mountains behind us, and it's looking really nice now. These clouds are pushing into the sun, filling up the horizon, and wow, it's kind of amazing how that happens sometimes. You know, we were feeling a little bit discouraged, I think, because this is our second morning here, so it's like wake up for sunrise, drive 40 minutes to the spot, hike up this hill, and then realize, okay, you're not gonna get a shot. It's like you do that once and you're fine. You do that twice and it starts to get a little bit discouraging. This is looking amazing right now. So I'm gonna do pretty much the same thing I was trying before. I'm gonna focus on a very wide perspective of these cliffs, and I may need to do a bit of a panorama at 16 millimeters. So I'm probably gonna have to stitch some different shots here to get the full perspective. We could get a bit of a sunstar, so I'm thinking maybe try an image at f16 to see what that looks like when it's, you know, right on the edge of the clouds. But other than that, ISO 100 and then just a pretty high shutter speed here. How's this morning going, Marco?
It's going very good, and now with the clouds, it's going even better. And I'm getting all the shots.
Wow, look at that. Ooh! It's cool that there's a beautiful shape being created by the clouds rushing in. Absolutely incredible. And then focus at infinity. So here's my final image of those cliffs. I absolutely love the lighting here and the color contrast between the blue tones and the warmer tones in the rock, and overall the mirrored leading line of the foreground matched with the clouds was exactly what I was looking for. We definitely made a mistake leaving this spot right after sunrise, and if we had left 5 minutes earlier, we might have completely missed this moment. I talk a lot in these videos about how I think it's important to scout locations and to show up early for shoots. And after this situation, I realized it's equally as important to stick around maybe after the moment that you anticipated shooting. And so ever since this outing, I've been trying not to take that for granted. I make sure to pack extra snacks and things I might need, and I plan to stick around a while in field just to kind of watch things play out and see what happens. And overall, it's made some of these shoots so much more enjoyable. So, really goes to show that you can't rule anything out, and that was really spectacular. I mean, it was perfect light. It was the clouds rushed in. We got some of the sun star, some, you know, shadowed light. The clouds right now actually have a really nice texture down. Oof, almost hit the camera. The clouds right now have a really nice texture underneath. Like it's post-sunrise light, but there's still a lot of color underneath the clouds, which I think is gonna work really well with the color of the landscape. Perfect end to this morning. I think I'm probably rambling because I'm really tired right now. I think we're gonna go explore for a little bit and see where the day takes us. During our trip, we visited some other really beautiful locations, including foggy mountains and a really surreal forest. But I'll be saving those for episode 2 and 3, so make sure to stay tuned. Well, good morning once again from Madeira. It's very early right now, which has been a common trend for us, is go to sleep late, wake up very early, and then take a very long nap during the day. But got some coffee. We're gonna head back to the dramatic cliffs that we've been photographing. I've already been there now 3 times. This time we're gonna go back to the cliffs and do a bit of a hike a little bit further out and see if we can get something a little bit different. What do you think?
I think we might get there and turn around.
We were once again met with the classic Madeira dramatic weather, and sunrise ended up being a bit of a dud. But making sure to remember what happened the last shoot, we stuck around and enjoyed the morning, and then I found a composition that I really liked. Here's how it turned out. So this photo was probably my most creative composition that I came up with at these cliffs. I really liked the symmetry here and that V-shape created by the two sides of the cliffs with that beautiful spire right in the middle. And I felt like this plant in the foreground added a nice bit of color and texture to this image. I had to do a pretty extreme focus stack to get everything in focus, and then I also exposure blended for the background. And as you can see here, after sunrise the clouds opened up a bit and some beautiful light shined through in the background. We also caught a sunrise at a different spot around these cliffs, and this one was absolutely gorgeous. Here's what I shot. I think one of the biggest challenges of shooting this island was the constantly changing weather. And after that first sunrise outing, we realized that the key here was going to be persistence. The more times you get out there, the better your chances of getting those conditions you really hoped for. It's important not to completely dwell on that, which can be difficult when you're on a trip, not sure when you're going to return to that place, and especially when you've traveled around the world to go shoot there. I've done trips where I've been rained out for 2 weeks straight, and in those moments where you're getting bad weather, it's a good idea to just keep your head high and try and think outside the box. Explore your creativity. But eventually, if you put in the work and the time, you'll get the shot that you envisioned. And remember to spend a little bit more time in the landscape, because the beautiful light you were hoping for may happen when you least expect it. With that, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more, because this is just the start of my Madeira adventure. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.